All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going on a journey into one of the most beautiful and, frankly, profound parables from the Zohar. It's a story that seems simple on the surface. There's a king, a huge 7-day feast, and then a secret invitation that changes everything. But, hidden inside this ancient story is a timeless blueprint for how reality itself works. It holds the secret for how we can balance the endless demands of our outer world with that deep, quiet calling from our inner world. So let's pull back the curtain and see how this ancient wisdom can actually light up our lives today.
So, here's our roadmap for this deep dive. First, we're going to immerse ourselves in the cinematic story of the feast itself. Then, we'll start decoding its hidden mystical meaning. After that, we are going deep, looking at the cosmic system that actually powers this whole process. Then we'll bring it back and see how this ancient truth translates to our modern world. And finally, we'll talk about how you can actually apply this wisdom to enter your own inner chamber.
Okay, let's start with the story. And I really want you to settle in for this. If you can, just take a moment. We're stepping back in time into a world of almost mythic grandeur to watch a scene unfold in a palace that sits right at the very heart of existence. And here's where it all begins. This single line from the Zohar. It starts, "It is like a king who invited his beloved to a supernal feast." This is our anchor, the authentic source. Just hearing the original Aramaic connects us across centuries to the sages who first contemplated this mystery. This isn't just a story, it's a living transmission. Okay, let's really build this scene in our minds. Picture a palace so vast its walls seem to hold up the sky. The ceilings are just impossibly high, painted with constellations that are slowly, gently drifting and shimmering. And you've got this light streaming through these massive arched windows, catching the gold thread in 100 tapestries that tell the story of creation itself. And down below, you have these polished banquet tables stretching on, it seems, forever, just laden with every delicacy you can possibly imagine. The air is just thick with energy. The clinking of goblets, the murmur of 100 different languages, people debating policy and philosophy, all of it underscored by this low hum of a kingdom in full, vibrant motion. Now, for 7 full days, a complete cycle of creation, the king is the ultimate public figure. He's presiding over this incredible affair, not like some distant monarch, but he's right there, an engaged administrator. He's moving through the hall, his presence is this unifying force. He's listening to reports from his ministers, he's resolving disputes, forging alliances, and making absolutely sure that the flow of resources reaches every single corner of his kingdom. This is the king as the central hub, the master manager, taking care of all the external powers that keep the world turning. And then, everything shifts. The 7th day ends. The last of the ministers offers their thanks, and they depart. The servants clear the final plates. Their movements are quiet, almost reverent. The thousands of torches are dimmed, one by one, until there's just this warm, gentle glow left. And those massive, ornate doors of the grand hall, they swing shut. But not with a slam, with a soft, final, definitive click. The echoing noise of the kingdom just fades into this deep, holy silence. The public show is over. So, what was that all about? This is where we peel back the layers and get to the sod, the secret. The Zohar isn't just telling us a nice story, it's showing us that reality itself operates in 2 completely distinct, sequential modes. And this parable, it's the master key to understanding them both. These 2 Hebrew words are our guide. First, you have Chitzoniut. It comes from the root word for outside. This represents the whole external dimension of life. It's the world of doing, of managing complex systems, of dealing with all the separate parts of our lives in the world. That was the king's 7-day feast. And then you have Pnimiut, from the root word for inside. This is the internal dimension. It's the world of being, of essence, of pure, undistracted connection. It's what happens after those big doors softly click shut. Now, this is where it gets really amazing. This mystical pattern maps perfectly onto the Jewish holiday cycle. The 7 days of the king's feast, that's the 7 days of Sukkot. During Sukkot, tradition teaches that 70 offerings were brought in the ancient temple, one for each of the 70 archetypal nations of the world. It's this universal, outward-facing act of blessing for all of humanity. But then comes the 8th day, Shemini Atzeret. The mystics say on this day, the king turns to his beloved, the soul of Israel, and says, "Please, just stay with me for one more day." It's a complete shift from the huge public feast to a quiet, intimate meal for 2. From outer distribution to inner union.
Okay, so let's be super clear about our cast of characters in this cosmic drama. The king, of course, is the divine source, the infinite wellspring of everything. The ministers and officers, they represent all the external forces and structures of the world, symbolized by those 70 nations and their spiritual channels. The beloved, that's the single inner point of essential connection, the collective soul. And the feast itself, that is the shefa, the divine flow of blessing, of life force that sustains all of reality.
All right, now we're going to move to the narrowest part of the hourglass. This isn't just some beautiful metaphor. The Kabbalists describe this as a precise cosmic system, almost like a divine technology. We're about to look under the hood at the mystical mechanics of reality, the source code that runs this entire sequence. This is the really cool part. Okay, stick with me here, because this slide is the core of the whole thing. The Sephirot are these divine attributes, the building blocks of reality. Let's walk through it. First, you have Malchut, the kingdom, which represents the beloved. During those 7 outer days, Malchut expands, right? It creates this huge, detailed space for all 70 ministers to exist. But on the 8th day, Malchut does the opposite. It contracts, it pulls inward, creating an exclusive private chamber. Next up, Yesod, the foundation. During the feast, think of Yesod as a sophisticated router, channeling the divine flow to multiple nodes, making sure every minister gets their signal. Then on the 8th day, Yesod reconfigures. It goes from a multi-channel router to a single, high-bandwidth point-to-point fiber optic cable, focusing all its power on just one union. Then there's Gevora, which means boundary. During the 7 days, its job is crucial. It sets the proper limits for everyone. It makes sure each minister gets their exact measure of blessing. Not too much, not too little. It keeps order. But on the 8th day, Gevora flips its function. It stops setting boundaries between things and starts dissolving boundaries for total intimacy. And finally, Tiferet, the king. During the feast, the king oversees this whole distributed system. But on the 8th day, Tiferet unites directly, face to face, with the now contracted Malchut, the king and the beloved, finally together in that inner space. The whole system shifts from public administration to private union. The numbers here are telling their own story. We start with 70. This number represents the totality of the external world. You know, in Jewish tradition, it's the 70 nations, the 70 root languages, the 70 faces of Torah. It basically symbolizes maximum diversity and complexity. The whole job of those 7 days is to bring order and sustenance to this vast multiplicity of 70. And this whole process of managing the 70, it happens over a cycle of 7. The number 7 represents a complete, perfect cycle within the natural world. 7 days of creation, 7 days in a week, you get it. It symbolizes full engagement with time and space. The 7 days of the feast are the time it takes to perfect and harmonize this entire outer system. But then, after the work of the 70 is done through the cycle of 7, everything transcends to 1, the single, unique 8th day. Now, 8 is a fascinating number because it's beyond the natural cycle of 7. It represents a leap into a new dimension, something supernatural. It's about singularity, absolute unity, the focused exclusivity of that inner connection, where all the complexity of the 70 collapses back into the profound simplicity of the 1. And you can also think about this using the metaphor of light. First, during those 7 days, you have this diffuse radiance, a broad, generous, loving white light flowing out to sustain everything. Then that light gets channeled and contained, right? It's shaped into 70 distinct, balanced streams for each of the ministers, making sure there's order. But on the 8th day, all that energy contracts. The streams all merge back into a single, intensely concentrated point of pure, brilliant, warm white light, the very essence of that face-to-face, intimate connection. Okay, so that was a deep dive, right? We've gone from a story to its secret meaning to the mystical physics behind it. So the question is, how on earth can we understand this ancient cosmic principle in our own modern language? Let's bring it back out. Okay, here are 2 analogies that I think make this crystal clear. For the adults, or anyone who thinks in systems, think of it as cosmic engineering. For 7 cycles, the main server is running a distributed system, serving tons of clients. Those are the 70 ministers. It's managing bandwidth, processing thousands of requests, keeping the whole network stable. Then, on the 8th cycle, it switches modes. It terminates all the external connections and establishes a dedicated, isolated, high-bandwidth, totally secure channel between the 2 primary core nodes, the king and the beloved. All system resources are now dedicated to this one essential, intimate process. And for the kids, or the kid in all of us, it's just like a video game. You spend the main level of the game managing your world, sharing resources, doing quests for all the different non-player characters, the NPCs, to bring order and stability. And once you've successfully done all that, you unlock a secret final level, a bonus stage. And in this level, it's just you. You alone get to meet the king, the game's creator, for the ultimate reward.
So what this all boils down to is this universal pattern. And this is so important. This is not about choosing the inner world over the outer world or rejecting life for some spiritual escape. It's a sequence. It's a design. First, you have to attend to the world outside. You have to bring order, fulfill your responsibilities, and manage the glorious, messy complexity of life. But that work isn't the end goal. It's the prerequisite. It's what prepares the ground and creates the sacred, protected space for the real purpose, to then turn inward and connect with the essence, the core, the beloved. And this brings us right to the final, and I think most vital part of our journey together. How do we take this profound cosmic design and apply it to our own, very real, very human lives? How do we each become the king of our own inner and outer kingdoms?
So this is the question the parable really leaves with each of us. I want you to think about your own 7-day feast. Your job, your family duties, your social life, your creative projects, all the errands you run. These are your 70 ministers, and they all need your attention. You have to manage them. But after you've done that, what is your 8th day? How do you consciously, deliberately close those great doors? How do you quiet the noise of the outside world to create that sacred internal space for real connection with your own soul, with someone you love, with the divine?
You see, ultimately, what this ancient parable shows us is that the tension we all feel between our public roles and our private essence, it isn't a flaw in the system. It is the system. It's a sacred design for a meaningful life. A truly fulfilled life isn't found by escaping the world, and it's not found by losing ourselves completely in its demands either. It's found in the holy rhythm of engaging fully and then retreating consciously. It's in that sacred movement from the grand, noisy hall to the quiet, warm inner chamber. Thank you for joining us for this complete journey through the Pardes. We hope these ancient truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week. If you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share which part of the journey touched your soul in the comments. We'll see you in the next chapter.